so great to see so many of my buddies up here, Debbie and Maureen, and oh my gosh, Susan Racher. Hey, Susan. So, John Caporso.
Hi, how are you?
Like old home week here.
It sure is.
Excellent.
Great, and we are live streaming as well, so we might have people who you don't see on the call who are also participating, which is exciting. But I'm actually going to get started. It's 12:01. I'll just do my introduction and we'll go ahead and get started because we have a wonderful presentation today. And we have 90 people registered. So we know how that goes with Zoom. We'll see, even if we get 50%, that's a pretty darn good turnout. So welcome to everyone. My name's Lucinda Kirschensteiner. I've got my contact information here on a future slide. I'm with the Center for Social Change. I was formerly the director. I'm now in an advisory role. So I get to do the things I really love to do, which is these types of things. And thanks to Pat Morris for connecting with us and being willing to bring in his team for today's presentation. So let me just share briefly about the center. I'm not gonna do too much of a dog and pony show, but I'll share briefly about the center and hand it over to our speakers. So if you're not familiar with the Center for Social Change, we are a vibrant hub for change makers in Coral Gables. We amplify the impact of our change makers by promoting growth, collaboration, and wellness through our resources and innovative programming. So today's an example of the programming that we offer to not only our members, but to the broader community. And how we serve our change makers is that we offer a membership program which provides workspace. Many people are returning to our workspace, which is exciting. We also provide programs like today, a lot of capacity building programs and shared resources. I'm providing our co-director who leads up our membership services, Valerie's information is there. We also have meeting and event space. If you're not a member and you want to hold like a board meeting or some sort of training at our space, please reach out. We also provide fiscal services for nonprofits, especially around bookkeeping, grant writing, and fiscal sponsorship. So please reach out to Luli if you have questions. And then my name is there, Lucinda. And again, happy to have you all. These are all the ways you can reach out or be in touch with us, and we encourage you to do so. And we have a couple events coming up. One is around fundraising. I think Sarah will put in the chat how you can find information on that event. If you're a member, you get special pricing. If you're non-member, it's still quite affordable. I think it's about $30. So that event is coming up. And then very closely tied to the topic of today, we have a workshop coming up on diversity and inclusion, specifically for nonprofits and for the social impact sector. So please include that information. I hope you'll register. Again, we have special pricing for members, and it's open to the broader community. We're partnering up with nonprofits first, and happy to be joining them on offering that workshop. All right, so on that note, I'm going to go back to the first slide and show you all of our great presenters for today. So with the launch of Miami-Dade's first Office of Equity and Inclusion, which I believe kicked off in the spring, we're excited to have 4 members of the Mayor's Office today to join us and discuss the Mayor's priorities in these areas, specifically on community engagement, equity, and inclusion. And I'm just quoting the mayor from a recent Miami Times article, I believe it was in February, where she stated, "Equity means doubling down on investments in communities that have been historically disenfranchised and underserved. Equity is not just a finite list of programs and initiatives, it is a sustained systemic approach to governance, and it must be a team effort. We need direct engagement to bring government closer to the people it serves." So today you're going to be hearing from those team members. Today we have Jason Smith, who's the director of this office. And we have Shireen Floyd, with also of the office, who's the Director of Performance and Analytics. And through that position, she leverages the power of data to develop and measure inclusive policies, creating a central dashboard and other tools to track equity metrics. We also have Daniella Vargas, who's the Small Business Innovation Manager, and his role is to develop a capacity building plan for growing entrepreneurship with an emphasis on equity. And then Pat Morris, who many of you know, and he's with the mayor's office, director of the Civic and Philanthropic Partnerships. That is a mouthful, Pat, as you know. So we'll post their bios in chat if you want more information. We're gonna leave the last 15 minutes for Q&A. And I believe that's all you need from me. And I'm gonna hand over to Jason, who has some slides to share, and we'll kick things off. So welcome.
Thank you for welcoming us, everyone. And it's great to be in conversation with you about these important topics of equity and inclusion and engagement in Miami-Dade County. So our office, the Office of Equity and Inclusion, as well as the Office of Civic Engagement, we are housed in a new division within the Office of County Mayor Daniella Levine Cava. And that new division is called the Division of Innovation and Performance. This division really leads the mayor's change agenda in Miami-Dade County government. And part of that division, as I said, includes the Office of Innovation and Performance, the Office of Civic Engagement, the Office of Equity and Inclusion, and our work regarding data analytics. So the mayor's guiding principles for good government include engagement, environment, economy, and equity. And the Division of Innovation and Performance houses leads two of those key efforts when it comes to equity and engagement. And we believe that if we do our work well, and I'm sorry, someone should mute, but if we do our work well, we believe that we will create a more prosperous Miami-Dade County, and we will build trust in Miami-Dade County government. So we'll talk more about our individual offices. So the first office, we'll start in the Division of Innovation and Performance. We're led by Rahel Waldeyesus. She's the Senior Advisor to the Mayor for Innovation and Performance. Rahel was the Mayor's former Chief of Staff in her commission office and was promoted to this role. And here we list the different teams that we have within the Division of Innovation and Performance, and we'll go in depth with each team. And we'll start with the Office of Equity and Inclusion. So I am a 17-year county employee. I've worked with various county commissioners, but I started my work in the community as a journalist, working for the Miami Times, advocating for issues of equity and inclusion on the pages of the historic newspaper, which covers issues related to the Black community. And, formerly I was then Commissioner Daniella Levine Cava's legislative director, and now in my role as director of the Office of Equity and Inclusion, I work to operationalize these concepts of equity and inclusion, and to ensure that the county administration is doing everything that can be done to reach all of our communities and ensure that all of our residents have an opportunity to fully participate in the social, economic, and political life of Miami-Dade County. The Office of Equity and Inclusion also is led by Shireen Floyd, who's responsible for strategic planning, performance measurement, data analysis, and process improvement within the mayor's office. Everything we do in the mayor's office, and specific to, just want to go back to Shireen's slide, but everything we do in the mayor's office specific to equity and inclusion and engagement, we do through the lens of data. We want to make sure that everything we do is measurable, that we're using best practices, and everything is centered in evidence-based solutions. So Shireen is really valuable and invaluable in that regard, because everything we do starts and ends with data. Also a part of our team is Danilo Vargas.
No, this is on Zoom now.
Yes, you'll get a chance to hear from Danilo
Yeah,
shortly.
this is Zoom.
But Danilo leads
Zoom
a
meeting.
very important part of our team, and he's our small business innovation manager. And Danilo will tell you more about the really innovative program that we have planned for our small business ecosystem to both support and to grow the entrepreneurial ecosystem and to support those small businesses already in existence. And again, we'll have a chance to talk more about each one of our roles shortly. I'm going to turn it over to Pat, who is a part of our Office of Engagement, and he's done such a wonderful job. Most recently, leading the efforts of at Surfside, bringing the philanthropic and business community together to support those impacted by that tragedy. So, Pat, I'll turn it over to you now.
Hey, thanks so much, Jason. I mean, many of my friends are on this call, so I'm not going to say much. Those who don't know me, I've got a background since 1990 of working in our community here when I transplanted from New York down here to Miami, and been a Floridian and a Miamian ever since. And I've had the opportunity to work in the for-profit, the nonprofit with Hands on Miami and the YMCA, and then the last 5.5 years in philanthropy, the head of Wells Fargo down here. So in a lot of ways, quite frankly, you know, working for Daniella, who I've known for 18 years now, I don't really ever say that name anymore. I call her Mayor about 95%, unless it slips out. But it's been really kind of just an incredible honor to work with her, in particular what we see in the last 3 weeks. You know, for those of you who know her, we know, you know, stepping up to a tragedy like this would not be a surprise whatsoever. So I'm even prouder of working for her after the last, you know, 3.5 weeks, along with the team that's on here that all had a role in helping, you know, us get through this tragedy. So I'm excited to talk to you about a little bit of what I'm doing and get an opportunity to share with you some of the other folks who might be on this call, who are on our team, that are just the four of us speaking, but there's a bunch of other folks that are really just some great young people and exciting people who are really charged up to make a difference in our community. So more to come.
Pat. So the Office of Equity and Inclusion, we'll just jump into some of the projects that and objectives that we're looking at mounting. Some of these projects are well underway, and some will be rolled out over time. So we have again, the mission of our office is to build and support our diverse workforce, our businesses, and partnerships to lift all residents. And we have several objectives that we're sharing here on the screen. They include increased economic opportunity for disadvantaged and disinvited communities. We want to operationalize this concept of equity throughout all of the county's services that are provided to the community. And we want to increase access for small business owners and entrepreneurs, and bolster business opportunities for our small businesses through the county's contracting program. Miami-Dade County is an anchor institution, and our $9 billion budget could be used to grow our local economy, and we hope to do just that. And lastly, our main objective is to advance equitable public and neighborhood safety measures to address community violence. And more specifically related to that objective, in the news recently, prior to the Surfside tragedy, it was the unveiling of the Peace and Prosperity Plan, which was a plan that is fully funded by revenue from the FTX Arena renaming, but it deploys funding in a way that addresses those hardest hit communities, those communities hardest hit by gun violence, and those communities hardest hit by issues of poverty, which is a drastic shift in how the county has previously deployed resources. This was a very intentional plan to ensure that resources were applied equitably where they were most needed. So a list of some of the sample programs and projects that we're currently working on and that we will continue to work on. I just must share that our work is both internal and external. Internal to Miami-Dade County government and external in the community to raise this issue of equity and inclusion. Internally, we will be looking at procurement reform. We have a new ISD, Internal Services Department Director, in the name of Alex Munoz. The mayor is passionate about values-based procurement and, again, bolstering opportunities for small businesses in our community. So we've been working intently on providing the mayor with advice and counsel on how to best reform Miami-Dade County's procurement system. We've held several roundtables and we continue to meet with the community to source great ideas to do just that. And we believe that over the course of the next year, you will see some really positive improvements in the number of contracts that are awarded to our local and small businesses. Internally, we also are working on equity assessments and departmental equity audits to ensure that county resources in our programming are reaching the most underserved communities and everyone in our community. Equity audits, we've learned, they are a best practice when it comes to launching an equity-focused program in government. Shireen will tell us more about the Equity Dashboard and the Equity Atlas, again, that will track data and how the county is doing on these issues. And, I will just touch on this. Our work started at the height of the pandemic. And, when the mayor was inaugurated, she stated that equity would be infused throughout all of her decisions. And when she created our office, she pulled us in and directed us to come up with some solutions to ensure that the county's vaccine distribution program was equitable and it reached the hardest to reach communities that were previously overlooked. And to the mayor's credit, she included all of the recommendations that came from the Office of Equity and Inclusion in her overall vaccine distribution plan. And working together, I think our community should be proud that we have a 75% vaccination rate in Miami-Dade County. And we've reached all aspects of our community, from the migrant farm workers to the seniors who live in public housing. And that was because this Mayor Daniella Levine-Cava, was very intentional from the outset of how to deploy county resources. So I think I'll stop there. I don't know if at this time it'd be appropriate to bring in Shireen and my colleague Danilo to talk about some of the work that they're doing, or Lucinda, if we should just move forward. I mean, we're open. We're doing so much work and we're excited about the work that we're doing, but we want to make sure that that the participants are getting what they need from our conversation.
Yeah, maybe we just pause and take a couple questions and then maybe move on to your other colleagues, because that's a lot to digest.
Yes.
And I know we could probably speak for hours about all of these sample programs, and it's probably just a small representation of things you're doing. So I see one question from Kristen, and she was just asking if the Small Business Innovation Office or program will also be addressing nonprofits, and that might be something Pat can also address. But could you, and I know we'll hear more from Danilo, but if that's something you want to
Yes,
speak to right now.
Danilo is on the line, and could Danilo, if you could introduce yourself and address that
And
question.
that's a good segue for him. Yeah.
And
Sure.
segue into
Yes.
Strive 305. Yes.
Okay, great, fantastic. Thank you so much. First, I want to say thank you to the Office for Social Change. Thank you guys for inviting us. It's great to be with all these great change makers on this call. So yes, I became part of this team because then Commissioner Daniella Levine Cava founded Accelerate South Dade, which was a facility very similar to the Center for Social Change, but it was in Cutler Bay, Florida, and we kind of assisted folks in South Dade. And she was very specific. She said that she wanted that to be a small business and nonprofit center of entrepreneurship. So the answer to that is we're developing something that has been announced. It's called Strive 305. One of the components, and I would like to get into that a little bit, is to have a virtual incubator. And one of the advantages of a virtual incubator and having a curriculum online is that we can serve both for-profits and nonprofits at no additional cost because we're leveraging digital technology and we're leveraging online platforms. And so one of the things in my journey that I can tell you was that my focus was always on for-profits, not so much on nonprofits. However, through a program that the Commissioner Cava launched back in, I think it was 2018, 2019 or so, it was called the Nonprofit Academy. And she invited me to be a part of that so that I can immerse myself in the aspects of nonprofit, which are very similar to for-profits, but in many ways they differ. So it was, I think, like a 10-week class. I went to most of them. It was tough because it was evenings, but I went to most of them and I learned a ton. And it showed me how to be a better coach, a better mentor to nonprofits. I come from the marketing background, from branding. That's where I've practiced my whole career. And so I know a lot about marketing, but didn't know the context for nonprofits. I've learned a lot. And one of the things that I've learned is that branding is so critical for nonprofits because the economic engine of a nonprofit is not just money, it's not just profit. So it has to be volunteerism, it has to be access to a wide array of resources, which you need to inspire others to provide. So it's different than a CEO at a for-profit that is dealing purely with the financial equation. And so branding is a powerful force for any nonprofit, telling your story. And I would love, and we are going to make sure that that's a part of Strive 305 and that virtual incubator. And hopefully we can collaborate with you all to make that happen. I hope I answered the question.
We would love to chat more about that. Yes, I'm so happy to hear about that, and we can, on behalf of the center, we'd love to partner with you or be a partner for you to get that out in whatever way. So I'll look forward to connecting more. Great. And so I don't know who else. Did you have slides yourself, Daniella, or did you want to just speak more?
Well, you know what? I don't have additional slides,
okay.
But I have a couple of points I wanted to share.
Great.
So real quickly, because I know there's a lot to talk about, and I just wanted to talk about the small business innovation piece, which now we know includes nonprofits. So one of the things that you guys saw in the headlines in the last week that just blew up all the headlines was that 2 billionaires went to space. And so I just want to, one of the interesting things is, what is entrepreneurship? And it's a question that's important to answer because I feel that it guides you in how you move forward from equity and inclusion lens and how you perceive entrepreneurship and its role in society. So I thought it was curious that 2 billionaires going into space was great news, and I'm super excited about it. And I love the idea of human beings pushing the envelope and exploring. But sometimes I feel like the conversation gets away from the real story of entrepreneurship, right? Which is that anybody that is striving to create a brighter future is an entrepreneur. So we don't often talk about, Jessica that has the bakery down the street, Cindy that runs the dojo, the karate dojo and the dance studio, or Ernie, who's the AC provider that comes and fixes your air conditioning, right? We tend to forget about those folks or see them as perhaps not as exciting as billionaires in space. And I think they're every bit as exciting. And it takes every bit as much courage to start that bakery, that dance studio, and that AC business as it takes to go to space. So that's, how can we be more inclusive around entrepreneurship? And the definition that we use that drives us in our office is one that was postulated by a professor at Harvard. His name was Howard Stevenson. And he said something that I think is really profound. He said that entrepreneurship is the pursuit of opportunities despite resources controlled. I love that idea for 2 reasons. Number one, it's inclusive, right? If you're pursuing opportunities, whether you're in the mailroom at a company, whether you have your own little micro business or startup, you are an entrepreneur. You're pursuing opportunities, and you're not letting perhaps a perceived lack of funding or labor or whatever stop you from going after it. That's exciting. But the other part is that it's a 21st century skill. If you really think about all the challenges that we're facing, entrepreneurship is a great way to move into that future where there are so many challenges and uncertain availability of resources. So I think it's something that we should teach our youth. And I think that's the vision that we have in the office, and that the mayor under equity and inclusion wants to be including everybody in Miami-Dade County under. And so that's why entrepreneurship matters. And we found that out that in Miami-Dade County, it matters even more because we are unique in the entire country in that small business owners account for 53%. We don't have the latest data since COVID, but I would imagine that this is a stat that has stayed pretty stable for decades. So I would imagine it will continue along this trend line, which is that 53% of the jobs in the county are generated by small business owners. In most other counties or places in the United States, it tends to be around 47, 48. It's close to half, but we're over half in terms of the jobs created by entrepreneurs, especially small business owners. But guess what? When you go deeper, you find something even more curious. And that is that 80% of the small business owners in Miami-Dade County have 9 employees or less. So in essence, they're micro businesses, right? And actually 60% of them have 4 employees or less. And a big percentage are also solopreneurs or single owner companies. So that's our particular flavor of entrepreneurship in Miami-Dade County. And it does differ and is very unique when you compare it to other parts of the country. So when COVID hit, we saw the importance, not just in Miami-Dade County, but around the world and in every city of the nation, how important our small business owners are to our well-being. People were sad that they couldn't go to their local restaurants. People were sad that, you saw businesses shutter their doors, and in some cases for good. And so we saw that just how important and how much we care about small business owners. We go to that pizzeria down the street, but it wasn't until COVID that we really understood how important it was to us. And it could be the pizzeria, the floral shop, the whatever type of business you patronize. But we saw the impact of COVID on our lives through our small businesses. So we have to take steps to make sure that we future-proof our small business owners for the next shock. Because one of the things we're seeing is that challenges are going to continue. The challenges are not going to stop. COVID itself is not stopping. It continues to be a challenge that we need to deal with. And so how do we future-proof our businesses? Because we know they're so critical and really are, without any hyperbole, they really are the backbone of our economy. So I've been with the Office of the Mayor for about 5 months. And during that time, we announced something called Strive 305. It was really born from a previous effort, which was called Thrive 305, which was a survey, a civic engagement project, where there was a survey published. And we had over almost 27,000 respondents or residents who completed an extensive survey. I think we had something like 1.2 million data points that were captured. And when you look at that data, we saw that folks want to pivot in a new direction, that residents are looking for new opportunities and ways to really engage. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Can
can.
you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I thought I lost you for a second. So we saw that there was a desire, a deeply seated desire among residents to look for new opportunities and imagine a different way of moving forward. And so that's why we named this initiative Strive, because it feels like we're ready and we're at an inflection point where we are ready to strive for something better. And so Strive 305 has 4 components. The first one is to connect all the resources in the county from our partners and collaboration. The mayor always says, collaboration is her middle name, and she means it, and I have seen it firsthand. So the idea is to create a small business hub on miamidade.gov or some kind of online platform where we connect all the resources so that no small business owner can feel isolated, like they don't have access to the help that they need. I had the misfortune when I was back at Accelerate South Dade, I was working on a project with a CDFI, and I had business owners crying on the phone because they simply did not know they had been given misinformation about PPP and other CARES Act funding. And they lost out on opportunities or had to close their doors. Or when I came by and started to help them, we're so grateful for that. So we see that information, especially during a crisis, is the most precious commodity you have. So we want to make sure that we lubricate those wheels of communication and collaboration and connect all small business owners to all the resources the county has to offer and also the resources that our partners provide, like the Center for Social Change. So that small business hub will not only connect folks, but also tell the story of our county. We have a rich ecosystem. Really, in many ways, it is the envy of the world. And we are not telling that story of all the amazing people that live within that ecosystem and are doing great things. So we hope that Small Business Hub, as the first pillar of Strive 305, will be very impactful. Secondly, and I already spoke about this, the virtual incubator. One of the things I learned as a coach is that, especially micro businesses or when you're starting out, you don't know what you don't know in business. And kind of you go through the darkness, kind of feeling your way through it, and only experience and sometimes hard knocks is what teaches you how to be successful in business. What if we could accelerate folks by showing them the keys to the game, by giving them cutting edge education so that they know how to be really productive business owners? That's the idea of putting that curriculum of knowledge and insights in their hands for free. And because we're leveraging digital technologies, we can go countywide, which is part of our mission, because we want to make sure we reach every community, especially those that are underserved or don't live in a cool part of town. We want to make sure that they have access to opportunity. So the virtual incubator is going to bring that curriculum. We're going to build it with our partners. Everything is collaborative. And we're going to do it together and give them access to that information. And thirdly, one of the things we know is that, if you live in certain parts of Miami-Dade County, you do have resources nearby. But what if you live in South Dade? Or what if you live in an area that doesn't have the resources? How can you get started with Strive 305 and building a business? Well, we're going to create a network of co-working and maker spaces, right? I call a maker space not a place only where you can print, tools from the 3D printer, but also where you can create content. Digital marketing is all about content today. So you need a studio to do your podcasts and your video blog and all that good stuff to be successful. So where do you do that? And if you don't have the funding for that, where do you go to get that help? So the makerspace studios and the co-working spaces. And one of the things we're doing or we're looking into is to leverage the libraries, which are in every community just about. Leveraging the libraries to be those co-working and maker spaces, right? That we need for business owners to start and set up shop. They can have an address. They can have access to, they don't have to go to the Starbucks to have a meeting with customers. They have a conference room where they can have meetings or have presentations. Now that we're coming back live again, all these things are important. They need those tools and they shouldn't have to cross many, many miles to get to them. And they should be affordable and within their reach. And lastly, one of the things we noticed about small business owners, micro business owners especially, is that we tend to get stuck on the same things, right? There are certain friction points that we know are predictable hurdles to leveling up the business. So one of the things, for example, is creating a business plan. The fact of the matter is, most business owners don't have one. And if they don't have a plan, even if it's just in their head, they're just going to be searching through the dark, and maybe they'll hit their target, but more likely than not, they won't. And that's going to cause lack of productivity, and we're wasting an opportunity with that business owner. If they had to reach their dream, they could then employ folks. So business planning, access to capital and finance is a huge hurdle for many small business owners. How can we help them through that process? And lastly, digital marketing and sales. These are some known hurdles that everybody kind of stumbles across. And so through technical assistance boot camps, we're going to provide multi-week training that guides them through the process of shipping that item that is in their way, getting that loan, building that business plan, building that website. And we ship it in a weekend where we have a celebration and we build camaraderie and community, which is something they're hungry for. So to wrap up, and that's really everything I wanted to share with you guys, and I would love to take questions and hear feedback, is that entrepreneurship matters. It is available to everybody. It's not just the domain of billionaires. And it behooves us in Miami-Dade County to take care of our small business owners because they really are the backbone of our economy. And lastly, we are taking active steps and we look to collaborate with everybody on this call to make that happen. So with that, I am really just excited about what the future holds for us.
Thank you, Danilo. I wanted to give some time to Shireen, who is our co-lead, my co-lead in the Office of Equity and Inclusion, and really key to the work of the entire administration. So Shireen, could you just center us in your work?
Sure, I'll say something very briefly. First, let me just say I knew the mayor was really serious about equity and inclusion when, not because she brought me in, but she brought me in due to my background in performance and data analytics and in the private sector and in the public sector. And her move to pair that with Jason, with the policy and the community engagement background, told me she doesn't just want an office for the sake of saying she stood up an office. Like she wants to know, she wants to do it right. And so I just say that to say that's really sums up my role. I co-lead with Jason, but I also lead our Office of Performance and Process Improvement. And we're really leveraging and informing a lot of the work coming out of our innovation group in IT and our strategic planning and performance group in the Office of Management and Budget. So I'll say briefly that a lot of the work that you see on the screen and that Danilo talked about and that Jason talked about, a lot of that programmatic work, our goal is to inform it with data and just for data to be like the veins that run through it so that we're always kind of checking ourselves to make sure we're on course. Again, like pointing back to not just the vision, but like we have the objectives before you. Are we meeting these objectives with what we're doing, with who we're serving, with the outcome? So I'm often quiet and hang back, and that's, they're like the body, I'm like the veins. I'm moving through it. I don't necessarily need to be seen or heard, but yeah, I'll just state some of the goals. My goals as our Director of Performance and Analytics, and I'll just highlight a few programs that I'm working with and I'm working on. And I think the three that I'll talk about, I think, have a specific opportunity for community to partner. And so I think those will be of interest to you, and I'll be really interested in the feedback around the thing that I point out. And so two of the goals that I have in my role are to ensure alignment between the mayoral priorities and our commissioner priorities and our programs that we talked about before you. And another goal is to connect high priority services to data and tools. Okay, and so that's kind of, again, that's happening as framework and foundation to any program that we're talking about. And what does that look like? So one of the things that Jason mentioned early in sample programs and projects is an equity dashboard. And so, one of I know the goals are for our organization is just to lay some groundwork to establish some awareness about where we stand internally and externally around equity. And so we are starting with a really small proof of concept to share with the community, and we hope to build on it with some other specific data sets that we think are important and that you all might think are important. So we'll be really interested to hear what data that you all think will be interesting to identify where we stand with diversity and equity and inclusion within the county and within our community. And another I'll point out, as Jason mentioned earlier, that we are looking to do a equity atlas or equity map. And so we want to source what all of our partners in the community are doing around equity and inclusion, to bring that to one place on our county website, to live alongside a dashboard, to show folks where the work is happening, who's doing the work, and hopefully help us to see some gaps where there's some work needed, and where we can stand up some additional programs to work with our community to identify some additional programs that are needed. So the third that you heard earlier as well was Thrive 305, where all are kind of supporting and working on that Thrive 305 initiative from different angles. And just as a reminder, that was basically a countywide resident survey, surveying our residents on where opportunities for improvement, what we want to see in the future. And so that one of the mayor's first data-driven efforts. And we know that our survey will live on throughout the year, and we hope to revisit it annually in some way so that we can keep our finger on the pulse of, again, what our residents want and need from their local government. So again, equity dashboard, equity atlas, and a Thrive 305 resident survey, 3 areas where we would love input and feedback on what data you want to see there and how we can build on it in the future.
Thank you, Shireen. I think you might have had some slides there that touch on some of the other aspects there. We'll just scroll through those and also share the slides afterwards.
Absolutely.
All right, I think we'll turn it over to Pat to talk to us about the Office of Civic Engagement and their great work.
Thank you, Shireen, and thank you, Jason and Danny. Again, I'm just so excited to work with this amazing team of people that are really so committed to the work of our county and our residents. And I also want to just give a shout out to a couple of colleagues. If this had been a 3-hour session, we could add everybody in the mayor's office on here. But since we only had an hour, I want to also make sure I introduce you, maybe the folks you may know. Maria Elena Levrant is the Director of Community Engagement for the mayor, has been a county employee for 25 years, I think, with the mayor during her commission years, so knows the mayor extremely well, knows county government incredibly well, and has been really an invaluable asset to those of us who are new to county government. Michelle Johnson, who is our faith-based and community leadership liaison, has been a great addition to our team and has got amazing connections in the faith-based community and beyond in the nonprofit sector. Really excited to work with her. And then Susan Holtzman, who's our older adult and special needs advocate. And I think either Francisco or Tony talked about in the chat, one of the pieces that was missing was the people with special needs. And so I would say to you, if you send me an email, I'd be happy to connect you with Susan. There is not a conversation we have in the mayor's office that she does not bring up, and making sure we attentive as the mayor is to the needs of people with special needs. So I can assure you that that is in fact the case. And then Jorge Damian de la Paz, maybe some of you knew him at the University of Miami. He is our senior strategist for government innovation, is an amazing data guy with Shireen. I let them do the data, I do the community engagement, so we get along really great. Shireen, if you'll click to the next slide, that highlights some of the things we're doing in the Office of Civic Engagement. I'm not going to go into all of these too much detail, but I think looking at the objectives are important. And if you look at our mission, that mission was written by us and tweaked by the mayor. And for those of you who know the mayor, like many of us have over many years, it is not a surprise that she has a diversity and inclusion component, or a performance component, and a community engagement piece. I am, so proud to have the opportunity to work with her and to support the work that she's doing. But let me just tell you, we can't do, no matter what it is, the work that Jason's doing, Danny's doing, myself, Michelle, or Maria, or Susan, we can't do it without you. And for those of you who participated, over 85 nonprofits and civic organizations in Thrive 305, the mayor prides herself on being the nonprofit mayor. She came up from the nonprofit community. It's something that she talks about all the time. She references, she refers to, not just in private, out in public as well. And so that's not going to stop. And I would say to my nonprofit colleagues and my for-profit colleagues on the phone, on the Zoom call here, and those on the phone, we got to partner with you to get accomplished what we can in the next 4, maybe 8 years on behalf of the mayor and our residents. And that means she needs your support in getting support in the community and turning out to raise your voices on behalf of things that are important to you, not just to the mayor, but to our county commissioners and our other elected officials, both at the state and federal levels as well. So, thank you for those of you who have engaged in that journey with us, and more to come. So as you can see, the objectives, many of which the engagement team is focused on, are building capacity of individuals and nonprofits to navigate county services. We know that coming out of COVID-19, a lot of our nonprofit sector organizations are hurting. Both the work that Danny's doing provides resources, the work that Philanthropy Miami is doing, United Way, Children's Trust, certainly the Center for Social Change, are all helping to re-pivot and move past COVID-19 and make sure that our nonprofit sector is as vibrant as it needs to be, because it needs to be even more vibrant, I believe. We're looking, and the mayor, as you all know, is focused on increasing the engagement and involvement of local organizations to help address the needs of our residents. That's not going to stop. I also want to say, the community engagement piece, not just helping the nonprofit sector understand more of where the resources are in Miami-Dade County. I think that's been a best kept secret by the county over many years. I think the mayor tried to crack that walnut open during her county commission years, but now she's committed to doing that. And this is the team that's going to help make that happen, whether it's through purchasing and some of that stuff, but just making a fairer, more transparent process in terms of the CDL funding. That's something that's not going to change right now in this cycle because it's already been pre-baked in, but it's something that the mayor is committed to doing. And for those of you who know Dan Wall and I and the mayor and Rahel and Maria have talked about how we can do that in a more transparent, fairer way going forward. So more to come on that. Again, I think just how do we, and again, we may have ideas, you may have ideas. So if you have ideas on how we can make county government more accessible and improving that customer experience for residents who go to water and sewer or parks, or for our nonprofit sector who are engaging with all of the different pieces of Miami-Dade County government. So that's exciting. I think it's probably something unheard of in any mayor that I know. That's going back 3 mayors over 30 plus years. So at the end of the day, it all comes back to budgeting, comes back to, our $9 billion budget, how it gets spent, what it gets spent on, and how do we make sure that not just our nonprofit sector, but our residents are understanding the work that we're doing. It all comes through the budget process. And, that's something that we're excited about opening up and getting the light of day on that so that residents can really understand it, question their county commissioners who ultimately, have to vote on the budget, and also making sure you're, involved in this process as well. So more to come on that. I think you're going to see more on that. Again, looking at some of the projects you've seen or will be working on, Thrive 305 has been an amazing process that this team put together, again, with national funding from the Ford Foundation, Knight Foundation, partnering with the Miami Foundation and the Milton Family Foundation, Daniel over at Allegheny, Debbie Bussell from the Broad Foundation. So, really some great partners locally to make that happen. Moving forward with a robust launch of Civic Academy, some local Miami partners on that already, to how do we open up Miami County government and make sure that part of what we're doing in this amazingly multicultural community is making people understand how our local government works, our state government works, our national government work, and through the Civic Academy work, we're hoping to be able to do that. So I won't really focus on too much more of what you can see there. I think one thing you're going to hear a lot about, and if some of my other partners are on here, you might have heard it more, but we're really talking about a no wrong door approach to county government. That means if you go to water and sewer, or you go to parks, and your issue is not really with them, it's somewhere else, there's going to be a way to help you get access within county government to the resources you need. So that's a Mayor Daniella Levine Cava term. And it is something that she's really committed to. So I think you're going to be seeing and hearing more about that. And the last thing I want to mention to you is the mayor, and I know I saw Maria Scoria on here, and my friend Mia from Comcast, Maria from Comcast on here. We're going to be moving forward on establishing a corporate engagement council to really lift up our level of corporate social responsibility in our community. There is not a time where in a regular basis, a very small group maybe gets together that talks about CSR. I think Joan was on the phone here. She's one of the organizations, the Radical Partners, who have done that over the last couple of years. I know because when I was at Wells Fargo, I was involved there, but we need to do it in a much more sustained, larger way. I can't tell you, the perfect example is what happened 3 weeks ago at Surfside. You know, I had relationships that reached out to me, all the financial services. Maria was the first call that came to me. Bank of America, TD Bank, Wells Fargo, Citi, Starbucks, Walmart, Microsoft. I mean, how can I help? But that was just people who knew me, and they were reaching out through the mayor's office to get engaged. And many, if not all of them I mentioned, have been incredibly engaged. Comcast, stepped up during the COVID-19 work to really help us get the PSAs out to get people involved. So that's something the mayor's committed to do it. How do we bring a more structured, effective way to get our companies involved? Our companies that are our long-term companies that have been here, the carnivals and the RCCLs have a robust CSR component. That's great. But there's a lot of new companies, as you all know, and as all of the nonprofits on here would like to figure out a way to get in front of them. We want to be that conduit so that when you come to Miami-Dade County and you meet with Mayor Suarez, you talk about technology and you're thinking about setting shop up in Wynwood, you also hear, have you reached out to Miami-Dade County Mayor also? Because the Corporate Engagement Council is going to be a great way for you as you enter our community, and whatever your interest is, whether it's education or it's the environment or it's seniors, there's a way to get you connected to the folks who are doing that quickly. So you don't have to try and stumble around trying to figure out, you can get engaged right immediately. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to work with this great team. And again, we can't do our work without you, the nonprofit sector and the business community and the philanthropic sector. So we are here to continue to partner with you and collaborate and move forward with the mayor's agenda. So Jace, I'll kick it back to you.
Well, I think at this time, we still have a few more minutes for feedback and questions. I know the chat has been jumping with questions and engagement. So I guess we'll let the Center for Social Change lead us in the questions.
Great. Thanks again to all of you for your team to be here today. I know we could spend hours, but I appreciate the presentations you've given in such a succinct way, and it generates questions and conversations, and we can always do a follow-up and have some offline conversations. So let's see, there have been some questions in the chat. I know one that has come up was specifically about the Strive 305 program, and just, is it an application process? How does one get involved? So I saw that question pop up a couple times.
Right. So to get updates on Stripe 305, I put a URL link in the chat box. So it's simple. It's miamidade.gov/Strive 305. So the first part of it is building the website and also building the curriculum and online virtual incubator. So we're in the process of doing that, and we hope to roll it out before the year is out. And so please sign up for those updates so I can keep you in the loop.
Perfect. And yeah, why don't we just open it up for the few minutes we have remaining. If anyone would like to unmute themselves and ask a question while we have this great group, we'll take a couple questions.
Looks like Joan has her hand up.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason, and thank you, everyone. Pat, it's so nice to see you. And Danilo, with all the ideas that you shared, I'm very, very pumped. So my question is around collaboration, right? Because I love that all these initiatives are coming from the county now. But speaking of collaboration, I wonder how you're thinking of integrating what's already been happening years, right? Like the incubators there, the accelerators there, like Engage Miami, teaching on civic engagement, et cetera. I wonder what the role of the organizations that have been doing this for a long time, including RP in certain pieces, will be as you develop and strengthen all these initiatives.
Yeah, I think the level of engagement will be different for each initiative, but you saw through Thrive 305 exactly our model of engagement. You know, we don't want to, you know, lead the community. We want the community to lead, to be right at the center of all of our planning, all of our programming. And so the you know, the nonprofit community was built into the Thrive 305 process. They led the discussions, they hosted the convenings in the community. So I think that is the model that we will continue to employ. As it relates to, you know, for equity specifically, I know a lot of organizations are already working in the space. That's why we're going to first create this virtual equity ecosystem app, because our role isn't to replace or what's already being done, but to lift up and amplify those works. So that's what I hope to do by starting with the equity ecosystem app, partnering where we can, supporting grant applications where we can, supporting funding applications for, you know, nonprofits where we can. You know, it's all about collaboration. And I don't know if Pat or Danilo or Shireen wanted to chime in any further on that.
Let me just say, Joan, great question. It goes back to a conversation you and I had, really, right, about the CSR work that you're doing. I would echo what Jason said. Like, you know, it may look like we got a big staff, but we're like really lean and mean. You know, it's a small group of people. There's a lot of work to get done. It's not getting done if we're not doing partnerships and collaboration. That's what the mayor's been doing for 25 plus years in Miami-Dade County. That's the model. Everything can't be the mayor's initiative on fill in the blank, right? It's just not going to happen. But where the mayor can partner with fill in the blank, you know, you're talking to the team and some of the folks who are on here who can do that. And so in some cases, it's just the mayor being at something that's important to a collaborative group. You know, my job is not to really focus on as much individual nonprofits, but kind of sector components of it. And so how can I help move in my role, the sector together forward? And I think Susan would say that in the work that she's doing related to mental health and related to seniors, and certainly the work that Michelle is doing in the faith-based community. You know, it's got to be in partnership with our community. So think big, think bold. You know, we can't do everything, but we can do it if we've got partners in the nonprofit sector and the for-profit sector as well, right? Who are stepping up to really kind of help us. I mean, we know that an area that is important to the mayor, that is a big issue in our community, is food insecurity. And our folks up north, UHP is on the call here with us, in Broward and Palm Beach are much further ahead on really collaborating as a group in that space. That's an area that, you know, we're having that conversation right now. How do we move forward on the early childhood work, the amazing work that Will Bleckman has done for many, many years in the 0 to 3 space? You know, we need a 2.0 of that work. And the mayor's getting behind work like that and partner with the Children's Trust, United Way, Early Learning Coalition, and others. So it won't be us alone. We can't do it without, you know, partners. So reach out to us. You guys have all of our emails. You know, if you don't have somebody else who you want to talk to, send it to Jason, myself, Shireen, Danny. We'll get it to the right person in the mayor's staff.
I want to touch on Sensei Francisco's question. He had his hand up. I know we only have a few more minutes left, but please. We want to hear from you.
Very brief, yes. I actually focused on something, a mission that I developed from the profit sector. I was a banker, aerospace, different things, and I realized that special needs communities and all the general population that surrounds them have suffered tremendously. They are in a bind, they're in a deeper hole than any one of us, and their quality of life has really suffered. We developed a program through martial arts, no contact, but that delivers metrics and quality of life improvements for the autistic community, Down syndrome, and of course, the brothers, parents that are surrounding those individuals. And we teach anyone from 9 to 99. So this is not a thing for only kids. This is for the general population and everyone, because who doesn't need to deal with stress? Kids, adults, elderly, everyone. So we would love to talk to the county and just talk about the idea, because we've found challenges in bureaucracy through the Dade County public school systems. We're working directly through the municipalities because they have control over the ADA certified spaces like public parks. We don't have a dojo. We don't have a place, because I developed a business model that doesn't include a location. I don't need rent liabilities. I need partners to deliver a space that's safe. So in that sense, we have a different model. I would love to speak to the county. And I sent an email to Mr. Morris, and I look forward to any opportunity to share.
I'll be happy, Sensei, to follow up with you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Have the email, we'll connect you to our Parks Department and just explore what can be done.
And look at our YouTube channel. We have a lot of information there. Again, I create content because I don't know what to do. I try to tell anybody what I'm doing because it's about awareness. People just don't know that this is available, and it's accessible, and it's cheaper than most things you get your kids involved in. And so I look forward to hearing from anyone. Thank you very much.
All right, so I know we're at time, and I invite all of you to connect. The office has been so inviting, so it seems extremely accessible. And I know when Pat says he'll email you back, he truly will. And I'm quite sure the others will as well. So I invite you to stay in touch. The center loves to be a convener. We love to provide an opportunity to connect individuals across the area, cross-sector. Of course, we focus on change makers, so we like to be kind of at the center of those conversations. No pun intended, or maybe pun intended at the center. So I want to thank the staff as well. You have Valerie on the call, who is our Director of Membership. If you have any questions, you can direct them to her. Sarah's been awesome setting up our Zoom calls and communications marketing. And again, please reach out to us